Donald Trump's economic strategy, tariffs, tax cuts, and the U.S. fiscal crisis. Donald Trump's business background often influences his presidential decisions. He starts negotiations with tough stances to extract concessions from his partners. However, analysts suggest that a deeper reason lies behind his approach. The financial situation of the United States is dire. A record-high budget deficit. Since the late 1970s, excluding exceptional periods like the 2008-2009 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. budget deficit has never been this high. The national debt is soaring, and in the coming decades, it may double the country's economic output. The state of the U.S. economy under Trump. At the same time, the new president must also deliver on his major campaign promise, implementing a massive tax cut program. According to economists, the cost of this plan is staggering, $10 trillion over the next 10 years. Tariffs as a revenue source. Experts argue that Trump's tariffs are not merely a geopolitical tool, but primarily a means to fund his tax cut program. In his inauguration speech, he clearly stated, "Instead of taxing our own citizens, we will tax foreign countries and make our people wealthier." According to The Telegraph, this suggests that Washington's protectionist trade policies are here to stay. Michael Martins, a former U.S. diplomat, explains, Trump views tariffs as a revenue source, and his team uses them to justify tax cuts. Peter Navarro, one of Trump's trade advisors, reinforces this point. Tariffs are a crucial part of discussions about tax cuts. More tariffs on the horizon. Analysts warn that Trump is likely to introduce more tariffs and increase existing ones. For the 2025 fiscal year, the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, projects a federal budget deficit of $1.9 trillion, amounting to 6.2% of GDP, nearly double the average deficit over the last 50 years. By 2035, the deficit is expected to reach $2.7 trillion, or 6.1% of GDP. With such a massive deficit, the national debt will continue to grow, and according to the Government Accountability Office, GAO, the debt is on an unsustainable trajectory. By 2027, the national debt is expected to hit 106% of GDP. And by 2047, it could skyrocket to 200% of GDP. What does this mean for the economy? Analysts warn that while U.S. Treasury bond yields remain stable, preventing an immediate financial crisis, the situation is precarious. Robin Brooks, an expert at the Brookings Institution, states, "The U.S. is in a privileged position. It can sustain large budget deficits with low interest rates and a strong currency. However, we don't know when this advantage will end. What we do know is that we're playing with fire, because this cannot last forever." Elon Musk and government spending cuts. Trump's alternative strategy is to cut government spending. This is the main reason behind the creation of the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, which is led by billionaire Elon Musk. The agency's goal is to implement aggressive cost-cutting measures to free up funds for tax cuts. However, 2/3 of U.S. government spending is legally protected, including Social Security, welfare programs, and healthcare benefits. This means Musk can only target the remaining 1/3 of the budget, but 2/3 of that is allocated to military spending. As a result, real cost-cutting can only happen within 1/9 of the total budget. Musk has estimated that he can realistically cut $1 trillion in spending, but even that is not enough to offset the deficit. Can tariffs generate enough revenue? Experts argue that Trump's tariffs will not generate enough income to balance the budget. At the beginning of the 20th century, tariffs accounted for 50% of federal revenue. But today they make up just 2%. Under Trump's current plans, a 10% tariff on all imports, 60% tariff on Chinese goods. This could generate $225 billion per year, a significant sum, but far from enough to cover the deficit. Moreover, economists warn about the Laffer curve effect. As tariffs increase, demand for affected goods drops, reducing expected revenue. Who will bear the cost? The burden of increased tariffs will fall hardest on lower-income Americans, as they spend a higher percentage of their income on physical goods and energy. If tariffs are too aggressive, consumer spending may decline, which could slow economic growth. Conclusion: where is the U.S. economy headed? The financial situation of the United States is critical, and Trump's strategy, based on tax cuts and higher tariffs, poses significant long-term risks. The national debt is skyrocketing, the budget deficit is at record levels. Tariffs won't generate enough revenue. The tax cut program will further increase debt while the U.S. still holds a privileged economic position. The big question remains: how long can this system be sustained before a financial crisis hits? Write your opinion in the comments. If you found the topic interesting and useful, please subscribe to my channel. It would help me a lot. Thank you.